Hey everybody, this is Perch. Customer service. I've talked about this experience-driven comic shop, and I think the conversation could be broadened to some extent to just customer-first shops. And customer first is this weird kind of misnomer because I feel like people get it wrong. They do the customer is always right, or whatever the customer wants, you give it to them, and it's not. That's not really the answer. In many cases, customers are coming in looking for something specific, and your goal should be to try and get it for them as soon as possible. But in a lot of other cases, your customer comes in not knowing particularly what they want, and in that case, the experience part of the customer driven shop is to say, all right, let me figure out how to match you with something. Now, keep in mind, I did some videos, last week or whenever it was published, talking about, giving you what you need, not what you don't know you need, and all that kind of crap. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about comics in particular. There are so many of them. Indies, big, big mainstream, old, new. There's a lot of material out there, and generally speaking, even people who are experts in comics, who have read them forever, who know all the things there is to know about comics, they are surprised by finding new things, finding new creators, new stories, new whatever it might be. It's common for people to stumble across some, quote unquote, hidden gem or something that they didn't realize that they needed, they wanted, that they'd like. This isn't a case of like, hey, you're coming in blank and I'm going to give you something and you're going to enjoy it. It's a case of what is it that you like? How, it's where the comic shop owner or the retailer, whoever it is, becomes a bit of a therapist. Or they're like, hey, what is it that you are into? You're into, horror comics. Okay, what kind of horror? Is it 70s horror? Is it modern horror? Is it, what movies do you like? Do you like Saw? Do you like Nightmare on Elm Street? Do you like more campy horror? Do you like more psychological horror? What is it that you're into? And then I'm going to try and match you up with something. I'm going to try and match you up with something that you didn't know existed, and that you will enjoy. And I think this skill, this trait, is going to become very, very important because the algorithms that exist online, like Amazon's, if you like this, you'll want this, they tend to be terrible. And there's also a little bit of machine learning there that goes awry. It's trying to match up a product that you select into with a product like that one. And that's not exactly how things work. That's why in many cases when people come to the shop, they're like, yeah, I'm looking for something new to read. I will start asking about things they enjoy that are comics and are not comics, movies they might like, certain type of whatever. It's whatever they like. There's a wide assortment to get to what it is that they want. That's I think critical. That's the experience-driven store. Some people have asked me about it. It's saying, hey, what kind of experience are you trying to get out of comics? Let me provide that. Now, beyond the shop, by the way, someone got me onto this. I think that retail in general is going to go through this schism where you're going to have some shops do a very good job of managing through the next 10 years, and they're going to survive and be strong and get a good following. And then there's others that are just going to die. I went to go grab some coffee beans for a friend, and I go to the store. On my clock, it is 1:59 p.m. and the shop's going to close at 2. As I'm pulling in with 1 minute to go, I don't know when they're going to close yet. I see that they're starting to shut the doors and they're pulling down the little bay window there, and they're locking it up. So I park. I'm like, well, it's 1:59. It hasn't flipped over to 2 yet. I'm coming in just getting some beans here. It's not going to cause them to do anything with the machine, so this will be an easy sale. I get kind of close to the door, and before I got like 10 feet away from the door, the person sees me coming and hurriedly is trying to lock it, and then starts just looking at me and pointing to their wrist. Do you know that I've got a wrist? No, they're saying, do you know what time it is? It's like, all right, I kind of shrug, no problem. It's 1:59, a minute early. You want to go home? I get it. You're not interested in staying a minute later. You don't know. Maybe you think I'm coming in and I'm going to ask for 20 special order lattes. I mean, who knows? But all the same, in my head is immediately when I'm like, all right, well, I'll go get the beans somewhere else, and I did, and I'll find reasons not to go back. which is funny because it was probably a harmless moment. You got to think this worker, is not the owner of this shop, and they just want to get home, do their thing, and that's it. And it was a simple moment, and they that's all there was to it. Doesn't matter. I'm less likely to go back, which is a shame because I'm sure the store owner would have been happy to stay. It's just this is where the customer service, customer first, customer experience thing really matters. So in comics, if you think about the same scenario playing out, you think about people who forget about the shop for a moment, think about the publishers. And for the moment, let's leave the creators alone. We talk a lot about creators and what creators can do, and there's lots of things creators can do, sure, but there's been a lot of talking about that. We don't need to talk about it every single video. Let's talk more about the publishers. The publishers typically have some level of marketing, have some level of outreach, and their goal is to sell comics. Their goal is to strengthen the publishing line. They have full-time jobs. They are FTEs. They've got benefits, and they have all these other pieces. Maybe the pay is poor. That's quite likely, but there is a responsibility there to find ways to connect to your customer, find ways to connect your customer to books. Marvel is announcing new limited series, new titles like mad. They're putting them out to this point where you're forgetting them. I mean, in the last week, we got a Kang series, we got a Winter Guard limited series. There's a one-shot Cable tying into a Last Annihilation. Did you realize there was a little Last Annihilation event going on? Did you know? Did you like the DNA run of Guardians of the Galaxy? Did you like Annihilation? You might be interested to know that Al Ewing, who does typically respect the past, he does pull from storylines that have been done previously. He's going to be putting out a Last Annihilation, which in theory should invoke some of the memories of that event. And if you're into that DNA storyline, you might like Ewing's storyline. But did you know it existed? Who's helping connect you to that? Well, chances are your local comic shop is trying, but particularly in the last year, the shopping experience at a comic shop has been get in, get books, get out. There's not standing around and chatting and getting new books into your head through osmosis. It's more transactional. And so a lot of this responsibility does need to go to the publisher. A lot of this customer first does need to go there. And again, customer first, because I hear people say that in videos, and it's like the customer is always right. The customer needs to be respected. If the customer is angry about something, you say, yes, sir, how can I make it better? That's fine. That's one aspect. But the business growth aspect of it, the thing that's going to actually cause your business to increase over time, is going to be connecting with your customers, giving them an idea or a product, or figuring out what they like and matching them up with something you offer. It's going to be a lot of customer maintenance, customer connection, customer experience. It's going to be a lot less of having good customer support. I mean, that's nice, and you absolutely should try and treat your customers well. If your customer is angry, you should try and make it right. Sure, but that's in many ways, financially, it's far less important than having a good customer-friendly face, being able to get your message out there, being able to communicate and pull people into your product. And right now, it's unclear who's doing that. This is about outreach. It's about encouraging people to come and try something out. It's about positive. It's not about dunking on people. It's not about basically saying we're better than these other people over here. These other people over here suck, and we suck less. So come see us. It's about saying, hey, are you into science fiction comics? Well, cool. Let's get you connected up. Hey, were you a big fan of the Big Two with Marvel? Did you like big event style comics? Hey, we're AWA, and we've got this shared universe over here, and there's some superheroes in it, and there's some mystery, and there's a lot of there's a world you can kind of sink your teeth into, and a bunch of different creators are going to come over, and this is what you want to do. Come on over and try it out. That's the outreach that typically in comics tends to get forgotten. There are so many publishers out there right now. I do this every Friday. We look at the comics coming out the next week, and there's lots of publishers putting out books, and the majority of them you have no idea what it is they're doing. Who knows what is the point of this title? What are they trying to do? What's the approach? What book is this like? You're left to guess. And when I've talked to some of these smaller publishers, they're like, well, that's why we write the solicitations, and then the comic shop is supposed to do that, but the comic shop isn't doing that. And the comic shop of the future is going to have to get better at doing that, is going to have to try to create the experience for the customer, but the publisher has to have the role as well. And again, I've gone through this whole thing. I've not talked about creators. Obviously, creators have a role to play in all this, particularly when it's a creator-owned book. It's something they own. It's something they have a vested interest. I mean, arguably any book the creator does, they have a vested interest in it doing well. But it is, and we've talked about this before. I think the publisher itself, they often get overlooked when it comes to having this level of customer engagement, customer experience, good customer connection. They tend to be the last one people think about. That's a problem. If you are big or small, make sure you have people worrying about this, doing outreach, talking to people. If you're a crowdfunding group or whatever you might be, make sure you've got good outreach, and that outreach needs to be positive. It needs to appeal to what people want to buy. It cannot be a bunch of chaos. Customer expectations, customer experience, all these things are super important. They tend to be very easy to do, and they tend to be very overlooked. My take anyway. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for listening.